Thank you for joining us once again for another midweek Bible devotional thought. Really appreciate you actually clicking on the video, and we just want to, encourage you, if you think about it, to like and subscribe our video. Also, there's a little bell that is associated next to the video. If you hit that bell, it will actually remind you notify you when we have a new video that comes out, and we really appreciate that support. Today, I want us to think a little bit about how we live out our lives with true virtue in glorifying God. I think we're all familiar with the idea that there are a lot of people in the world who do a lot of great things for each other. There are a lot of organizations that are secular organizations that have been set up to be helpful ways of serving people. And all of those things are great. They're incredible. But I think there are sometimes that people look at Christianity and they say, what's the difference between the Christian life and the secular life lived in a good way? And I want to say to you, as kindly as I can, that in the eyes of God, what makes the difference is we may give someone a cup of cold water in a secular organization, but that same cup of cold water is given in the name of Jesus and to the glory of God. And this is the single thing that separates the good deeds of the world from the good deeds of those who would name the name of Christ and honor God in doing so. And in that simple change of mindset, it also makes that deed acceptable unto God. So we just think about the Christian ethic for a moment. It's unlike most ethics that exist in the world. And it's based off the example and the love that Jesus demonstrated so that we would be transformed by him. And so the instruction, for example, in a text like Luke 6, verse 35, where Jesus says, love your enemies. In Jesus' time, the enemy was most likely thought about as the occupying army that had conquered their ancestral home there in Jerusalem. And that would be the Romans. And so you go back to that text and you import that, and it has a heavy meaning all of a sudden, where Jesus says, love your enemies and do good. So this is how you overcome evil in the world. Love your enemies and do good and lend, expecting nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. And then down in verse 36, he says, be merciful, and the reason is given, just as your Father in heaven is merciful. Now, the truth is, Christians are no different from any other human being on planet Earth in that, at one time we were people who did not listen to the counsel of God. We were people who didn't care about it. Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 20 says, there's not a just person on earth who does good and does not sin. So standing on our own merit, standing on our own greatness or goodness, we can't be justified in the eyes of God, no matter how many cups of cold water we give out in acts of sheer kindness, just from a secular standpoint, because we have shattered our own morality. We have shattered our own goodness in the way that we have treated other people, in the way that we've treated God. And so in spite of this, we're extremely judgmental of other people. I think we see that everywhere. We're highly unaware of our own inappropriate behaviors. And if we're really honest, we need God's kindness more than we ever could imagine. And so we live in a time with great anxiety. There's no peace of mind. Our stress is out of the roof. Our stability is terrible. We have increased frustration in life, and our satisfaction in life is very decreased. And so we have to have a real, deep change and transformation of character. That involves a spiritual transformation. Jonathan Edwards, I have a lot that he wrote that I disagree with. I'm just going to be honest with you. But there was a document called Dissertations in which he wrote something called The Nature of True Virtue. This is written in 1765. And he says, there's a difference in virtue. He says there's a common virtue that produces honest, generous, and civil people, but the deepest habits of the heart are restrained. And in comparison to that, in contrast, he calls another type of virtue true virtue, where the deepest habits of the heart are changed. Not just held back, but changed. And so common virtue makes a person honest and generous because of fear and pride. And so you see this fear, this holding back. But in true virtue, the fear and the pride of the heart are actually dissolved and disintegrated at the root. So moral transformation looks at rules only, whereas spiritual transformation may see the rules, but beyond the rules sees the ruler, sees the king and the goodness of the king. And so moral reformation tries to bend and force the heart, whereas spiritual transformation melts and reshapes the heart. And so the point of all of that is that true transformation can only happen when we look at the character of Christ and how his kindness relates to us. And therefore, we are actually changed and transformed, not just restrained. And so we need spiritual transformation so that our actions, we're not just holding back. We're actually changed so that we actually do care. And so that we have a set of morals to the story, but it goes far beyond that. We have to preach Jesus, not just morals to the story, not timeless principles. We preach Jesus. And unless we do, people will never truly understand, never truly love, and never truly obey God. And so whatever you do, make sure you do those things, acts of service and kindness, in the name of Jesus and to the glory of God, so that God will accept those things as acts of service, and you will honor the gift of grace by serving your God in the right way.
In Jesus' name, his love is burning in our hearts like living flame.